Greetings, friends. It's me, Wayman. Welcome to another episode of ReligionThink. And just out paddling around today, and it's really nice out. I'm in this little cove out here on the lake, and I'm in the boat, and I'm kind of in the weeds, so I can stay still and maybe pop off this video. The video I want to do is on Genesis 16, because there's a lot of great stuff going on in this chapter. And I'm kind of going backwards, because you can kind of concentrate on a chapter or a section of pieces rather than already knowing the story. Then you have preconceived notions about it. You miss all this stuff. So, chapter 16, according to the documentary hypothesis that I talked about in the last video, this text is written by the so-called J source, which is from 950 BCE. So what's interesting here is, in this text, we have the conflict between the two women. And as we know, like the motif between the conflict of the two brothers who would fight for patriarchal positions, here it's a matriarchal fight. And what happens in here is they appeal to the Code of Hammurabi. And we've seen the Code of Hammurabi being used in the last video. So here, Sarai, as she's called because this is before her name change, can't have any kids. So in this text, it's assumed that God gives children, and they all come from God. And so, closed up the wound. So they think the divine can close or open wombs with a B, which is pretty interesting, because here they don't really have a concept, so to speak, here anyways, of not knowing that if you sleep together, the baby's born consciously, because yeah, you sleep together, but it's ultimately the divine that allows you to get pregnant or not. And also this motif of the two women carries out in Jacob's wives later on. So at any rate, due to the law Code of Hammurabi, Sarai says to Abram, hey, I'm not having any babies, take my Egyptian maid-servant Hagar. And what's interesting here is you have to ask the question, why Egyptian? By the time this text was probably written down, these are stories looking back already. These accounts are not written at the time that it assumes. So, in order to build your empire, you're going to include as many people as you can in with your epic. So there's a reason why it's Egyptian here. So here, when Sarai ends up getting jealous, however, in some Hebrew texts and commentaries, it's not Sarai's problem. It's Hagar who's acting arrogant, and Sarai retaliates. But that's not what the text in plain English or plain Hebrew says. Sarai is worried about matriarchal and inheritance and being built up, because here there's a word play between son and to build up. Some English texts use will make me greater or will build me up, and some will say that I might have children. So it's really neat how some translate the Hebrew in that section. So Abram takes the maidservant, and she's pregnant. However, the thing is, since Hagar is pregnant, according to the law Code of Hammurabi, she cannot sell Hagar. But she can make life pretty darn miserable for her, and she does. Hagar runs away, she's out, and she ends up meeting a messenger of the Lord, and who tells her, I'll greatly increase your offspring, and they too shall be too many to count. And the messenger of the Lord said to her further, behold, you are with child, and you shall bear a son, you shall call him Ishmael. For the Lord has paid heed to your suffering. And he shall be a wild ass of a man. This is where Judaism gets their dig in on Ishmael. Any place else where anybody's born wild, it ends up being like out of the ancient Near Eastern idea of, say, Enkidu and Esau, where rather than seeing them as being chaotic, they actually perform an important service, and they're important people, men of the field, so to speak. Cain, Esau, and even in New Testament ideas, John the Baptist. And Enkidu comes from this primitive instinct kind of idea, and he goes to the conscious, goes to the civilized, and he wrestles with Gilgamesh. So if you read the Epic of Gilgamesh, you can better understand a wild man. And I believe that that's what the text is maybe trying to say, that Ishmael is going to cause a lot of problems. He's going to turn things upside down. He's going to be a bull in a china shop, so to speak. So here, look in verse 14 on what Hagar calls the place, because that's important. And here in Hebrew, when people have visions and stuff, they're also explaining how certain places got their names. For example, Jacob's dream, he calls it Bethel, and then you get texts unto this day. So what's amazing here is looking back on the history. Egyptians are included in this covenant because here this epic is to build nations. You want to include as many people as possible. So, and also there's the motif of where the Hebrews were persecuted by Egyptians. The roles reversed here. Here you have a Hebrew persecuting an Egyptian and sending her out, sending an Egyptian out into the wilderness. So that's just some thoughts I have on this, and I'll be posting links to the Law Code of Hammurabi, and you can see how some of these transactions or laws might shed some light on reading biblical literature. And also here, being that all this already happened, they're looking back. This epic is for nation building. They're looking backwards on their history and explaining things, not looking ahead. So, I don't know, that's just some thoughts. I am not out of Judaism. This is just a secular kind of viewpoint. Theological histories will not agree with this. Theological belief systems will not agree with this. And I don't expect them to agree with it. But this is just another slant on the literature, and hopefully people can maybe appreciate it a little bit more, seeing the many different views that you can get from it. So take care, friends, and remember, if everyone's thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking.